Okay, imagine this for a second. The world's biggest user of coal, the country whose modern industrial power was literally built on this stuff, makes a pledge to go carbon neutral. It sounds completely impossible, right? A total paradox? But what if the plan wasn't to get rid of coal, but to completely reinvent it? This really is the question, isn't it? It's at the heart of one of the biggest technological races happening right now. We're not just talking about making coal a little bit cleaner. No, this is a moonshot. It's an attempt to turn coal from public enemy number one for the climate into a source of zero-emission power. It sounds like science fiction, I know, but the science behind it is very, very real. So to really get our heads around this, here is the roadmap. First, we'll dive into the paradox itself. Then we'll break down why old-school coal power is so broken. After that, we'll unveil the revolutionary tech that could fix it and discover some of its wild side benefits. We'll even look at its most futuristic use case. And then finally, see how this all clicks into a brand new energy strategy. Just look at this headline for a moment from the South China Morning Post. This is the news behind today's video. China unveils world's first coal-fueled cell that can produce electricity with zero emission. New technology developed by Chinese scientists achieves higher energy efficiency than burning while eliminating carbon dioxide emissions. With that said, let's go straight to the intro. The algorithm buries channels that show the truth like mine every single day. The only thing that fights back is you. One like, one subscribe, turn on the bell icon. That's how the truth about China survives on YouTube. Don't let it disappear. Thank you very much. Right, so this is the huge challenge China has set for itself. A promise to be carbon neutral by 2060, while at the same time sitting on some of the biggest and easiest to get to coal reserves in the world. Normally, you'd have to pick one or the other, the climate goal or the coal. But a team of scientists decided, what if we could have both? For 200 years, our entire industrial world has been built on a simple, powerful, and let's be honest, dirty act: setting coal on fire. We've burned it to build our cities, to power progress. That fire was the engine of the modern age. But that engine came with a cost, and the bill is now due. It's the crisis that defines our time. So to really get the solution, we've got to get the problem. And the problem with a normal coal plant isn't just the smoke, it's the fire itself. The entire process of burning something to make electricity is just fundamentally wasteful. Just look at how many brute force steps there are in the old way of doing things. You start with the chemical energy that's locked inside the coal. You burn it to make heat. You use all that heat to boil insane amounts of water into steam. That steam then has to spin a giant heavy turbine. And only then, after all of that, does the spinning generate electricity. Every single step in that chain just bleeds energy. It's so inefficient. And this isn't just a small flaw. It's a fundamental law of physics. It's called the Carnot limit. And because these old plants are basically just giant heat engines, they have a hard ceiling on how efficient they can ever be. This chart says it all. Even the best, most modern power plants on Earth lose up to 60% of the coal's energy as waste heat. Just gone, vented into the air. We're throwing away more than half the energy before we even use it. So how do you beat a fundamental law of physics? Well, you don't. You change the game completely. You build something that isn't a heat engine at all. And that's where this comes in. The zero carbon emission direct coal fuel cell, or let's just call it the ZCDFC. This isn't just a better power plant, it's a whole new way of making energy. The secret here is a process called electrochemical oxidation. See, the team at Shenzhen University, led by academician Shi Haiping, they made this incredible mental leap. They just stopped thinking of coal as something you have to burn. Instead, they started treating it like a solid-state electrochemical energy carrier. In other words, they figured out how to use a lump of coal like it's a battery. Okay, so how does this coal battery actually work? It's incredibly elegant. You've got pulverized coal going into one side, the anode. On the other side is the cathode. And in the middle, there's this special membrane called an electrolyte. oxygen ions travel across that membrane and react directly with the carbon in the coal. And that reaction, it releases a flow of electrons. That flow of electrons is electricity. No fire, no steam, no giant spinning turbines. Just a quiet, direct conversion of chemistry into power. And because this thing is not a heat engine, it completely shatters that old Carnot limit. The results are just staggering. The best traditional plants in the world max out at maybe 40–45% efficiency. This new fuel cell, it's projected to hit 60–65%. That's way more power from the exact same lump of coal, with zero direct emissions from the power generation itself. But here's where the story gets really wild. The true genius of this technology isn't just the power it creates, it's in the waste it eliminates and even turns into something valuable. This is where it goes from being just a power plant to being the core of a circular economy, and this part is truly transformative. Because there's no fire mixing with air, the system naturally captures a pure stream of CO2. But, and this is the kicker, it doesn't just bury it. It can convert that CO2 into valuable stuff, like synthesis gas for chemical plants, or even mineralize it into sodium bicarbonate. Yep, baking soda, locking the carbon away in a useful product. Oh, and on top of all that, it actually produces clean water and destroys other nasty pollutants like NOx. This quote just nails it perfectly. Carbon dioxide stops being this expensive problem you have to scrub and get rid of. It becomes a valuable raw material for other industries. It's not just an environmental fix, it's a brilliant economic move. Alright, so if you thought that was revolutionary, the next application is where this technology goes full-on science fiction. We're talking about making electricity from coal without ever digging it out of the ground. 2 kilometers, that's over a mile deep. There are literally trillions of tons of coal that deep. Way too dangerous and expensive to ever get to with human miners. But the entire game changes if you don't have to send people down there, just the technology. This table just shows you the insane difference. The old way, you dig dangerous tunnels, build these giant hoists, run fleets of trains to haul rock and coal to the surface. The new way, the tech converts the coal to electricity right there in the ground, and you just send the power up to the surface through a cable. It gets rid of the danger to humans, the massive infrastructure, and the carbon footprint of mining itself. Now, it's so important to understand this isn't just some cool lab experiment. It is being developed to be a cornerstone of a new national energy plan, a strategic move to solve some of the country's biggest challenges all at once. When it comes down to it, this tech is designed to solve that classic energy trilemma. First, it creates a real path to hitting those ambitious 2060 climate goals. Second, it gives you stable, on-demand power that can back up renewables like wind and solar, making sure the grid stays on 24/7. And third, it guarantees energy security, letting China use its own massive resources cleanly for decades to come. And that leaves us with one final massive question. For decades, we've been told the only way to save the climate is to ditch fossil fuels completely. This technology looks that idea straight in the eye and challenges it. So what if the answer isn't abandonment, but reinvention? Could this be a blueprint not just for China, but for the whole world to get to zero carbon without wrecking economies and power grids? Seriously, what do you think? We really want to know your take. Is this a real game changer, a critical part of the climate puzzle, or are there big risks and problems we haven't even thought of yet? Let us know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. If you found this deep dive as fascinating as we did and you want to stay ahead of the curve on the tech that's actually shaping our future, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.